Good morning. It's Friday, March the 14th of 2025, and maybe I should apologize because I wasn't planning on making a video today because I know that during my normal life that I cannot post a video 3, 4, 5 times a week, although I'd like to, but I'd probably run out of things to say. But I'm a little aggravated and I wanted your opinion on if you've ever been in this situation before and how you give me your advice on what you should do about it. Well, I know what I'm going to do about it, probably nothing. But if you've raised a child or children, I'm sure that you have faced some very hurtful situations. Now, I have told you earlier, I'm 73 now. My husband and I currently have a 17-year-old adopted daughter who's a senior in high school. And we adopted a little boy in 1981 at 5.5 weeks old. But he passed away in October of 2012 from a heart attack. And, throughout the years of them growing up, they both played sports. They weren't shining stars. They weren't going to get a scholarship to go to college or anything to play sports. But I'm wondering throughout life as I look back and I think, what are we teaching our children? And what example are we showing them? Just for example, when my son, of course, he always played a little basketball. He was a big kid. When he was 9 years old, I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not, when he was 9, he wore a size 9 shoe. And up until he was 17 years old, his foot grew a size every year to a size 17. So if you've got your husband or your brother or whatever, that's a big shoe. And there was only one place at that time that I could order them online to fit him. I mean, you can't go into a store and get a size 17 shoe. So he always was a big kid, tall, and I know that he probably wouldn't been fit that much for basketball, but he did play a little basketball. But in high school, he was on the football team, and I say that as I mean he was on the team. He never, hardly ever got to play. Never missed a practice, always gave it 100%, but he was always overlooked. And I've heard so many people say, I sure wouldn't want to go up against him as big as he is. He'd just be like a brick wall. And I've seen the hurt in his eyes. And if you'd have been there, you'd seen the hurt in my eyes. And one day I'd gone to one of the coaches and I said, his shoes, his cleats that he wears is like a size 15 and he wears a 17. And he said, I'll just tell him to wear them anyway. So that plus I wrote out a whole page, a lined sheet of paper of complaints of how he had been treated during the football season, 4 years. He never quit. Never mentioned quitting. So I was just seething underneath, because watching your child go through something like that. But I made a whole sheet of paper of complaints. My husband and I met with the coaches and assistant coaches and the principal and I think the athletic director. And I went over this whole sheet of complaints of how he had been, I felt like, he had been abused from it and still stood with it. And guess what happened? Nothing. So I know what happens. You don't accomplish anything, or if you ever have, I'd like to know it. I'd like to know a success story. Okay, let's talk about my daughter, who is 17, senior in high school. Now, she played basketball like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then when she went to high school, she didn't play anymore because that wasn't really her favorite sport. But during that time, she gave it her all. I don't care if the team was up 20 points. She might get to play the last 10 seconds of the game, 30 seconds, 1 minute, nothing, just nothing. And of course, at the beginning of the season, the coaches send a note home or it's in this letter of rules you got to go by. They will not talk to you about playing time. So, that's off limits. Well, I wasn't expecting her to play, be starting or playing, but, what are we teaching our kids in life? Is that if you're not the best, just forget it, just give up? It is so hurtful, but it is a situation that I cannot solve and you cannot solve. And you can go to the superintendent, you can go to anyone, and they'll say, I'll check on that, or I'll get back with you. And that's the end of it. You never hear anything again. Or that's my experience. Okay, here's my rant for today. My daughter has played softball for all 4 years of high school and sixth, seventh, and eighth, maybe in middle school. Not the best player, but she's consistent. She's not going to hit a home run. She plays right field. She's a good outfielder. Well, last year when she was a junior, she said, Mom, I'm probably not going to be on the varsity team this year. And I said, well, that's okay. That's all right. You just do your best, enjoy it, have fun with those girls. That's kind of a little team that you're associated with, and they go places and do things. I said, it's all right that you're not going to be on the varsity. Now, on the varsity were, 2 or 3 seniors, whoever were the seniors, some freshmen, some sophomore. They don't want, you been committed to this team for years, doesn't matter. They want to win. And believe me, where I live, we're not going to win much of anything. But instead of teaching the kids as they're growing up and to build their skills, it seems like that you're beating them down and making them lose confidence in themselves. So, the softball season started last week. And me being old, and me being where I don't want to sit out at night, especially when it's 30 and 40 degrees, that I'm not going to sit out on the bleachers and watch anybody play ball, except maybe the Kentucky Wildcats. I might sit out and watch them. Okay, she said, see, they don't even tell them till the first game if they're going to be on the varsity or the JV. So they did tryouts. They've been practicing since October. Okay, so she goes to the game last Thursday night, I think it was. I drove up there to the ball field. She said the varsity game starts at 5 and it's about 5 to 7, and then the JV. And she said, I know, they haven't told me, but I know that I will be on the JV. And I said, well, I'll just come on up there about 6 o'clock and get there at the end of the varsity game and then watch you. And she said, okay. So I got there a little after 6. The varsity game was going on. And I sit in my car. I can pull up really close to the field where I can watch the game. And I pulled up and I watched, and just from the distance that I couldn't really focus on the numbers on the girl's shirt. So I couldn't, but I didn't see her on the varsity playing during the varsity game. Then the varsity game ended about 7. It was about 2 hours. And then the JV went out to play, and she wasn't in right field, and that's what she always plays. And I thought, well, what's going on with this? I sat there for that whole game. Now, the second game, they time them so they don't play as long, but it was like 8:30, I guess, when it was over, 8:30 or 9. So after it was over, I just left because she drives and she has her own car. And I got home and she called and she said, did you already went home? And I said, yeah. And I said, did you play? And she said, I got to bat twice in the varsity game. And that was it. She didn't play outfield or anything. Now, she's the only one out of varsity and JV that is not getting to play. Now, is that fair? They're winning. Last week they were up like 11-1, and she didn't get to play. I don't. Well, I don't try to understand it anymore. I've been through so much with this business that I know, and I just try to stay calm. I try to talk to her calmly. I'm not one that's going to start screaming and going and talking to everybody. But last night they had their first away game. It was a scrimmage game, which, doesn't count. So they had practice after school for a little while, and then they got on the bus, drove over an hour to go. 2 games, varsity and JV. She called me when they were on the bus, starting home. They got home probably about 9:30ish. And when she walked in the door, I said, "Did you get to play?" And she said, "I didn't touch a ball." I said, "Did they win? Did the team win?" And she said, "Yes." And I didn't say anything. But last week when they had that first game, well, let me back up a little bit before that. Last spring, she was playing most of the time, but there's a couple of girls that were in middle school that's come up that are freshman, sophomore, and they're letting them play instead of her play because one of them's a pitcher, and they're one of the most important people on the team, and so that puts her, when the girl's not pitching, the girl is in right field. So before the season started this year, we'd had a long talk about the softball, and I said, I'm not a quitter. I don't like to see my kids quit stuff, like start on a team and then quit. And I said, "You're a senior in high school." Now, this was last summer we were talking about that. You're going to be a senior in high school. It will look good, I think, in your future to say, "Hey, I played softball all 4 years in high school." And instead of saying, "Oh, I quit because they weren't fair," or "I didn't get to play." So we talked about it, and we both agreed that she'd probably stick with it. So starting in October, she's done all these, practices. Starting in January, about the middle of January, they start mandatory practice. You cannot miss. And so the other night, whenever she got to bat twice, and when she got home, I was pretty fumed up, and I'd already vented to my husband, and he said, "Well, don't act mad or anything." So when she came in, she and I had a talk about it. And I said, I've said, I don't want you to be a quitter. But I said, you know, here's her daily schedule. She goes to school the first 3 periods of the day. Then she goes to work on this co-op classes. She works until 2:30. Then she goes to softball. And then she gets home at 5 or 6. Then she's got horses to feed. And then if she's got homework, and I mean, this is every day of the week, and she's exhausted. Now, I know she's 17 and has more energy than I do, but kids need some rest. And I said, if you get sick of this and you don't want to do it, I'm going to say you can quit. And so we talked about it for a few minutes, and she said, "I don't want to quit." So I said, "Well, you do what you want to do." So they've got a couple more weeks, and then they're going to Florida for a week. The softball team has been going for the last 3 years, and she loves going on that trip. And I told my husband this morning, I said, when they get back from that trip, if she wants to quit, I'm going to say quit. Because, our kids just give and give and give. Now, I'm not saying this is always the case. If she was just couldn't run to first base, it would be different. But someone that has put in a commitment of 4 hard years with the softball team, or whatever sport they're playing, it's not right. It is not right. But who's going to fix it? Nobody. But I would like to have your comments on this. What do you think about it? Is it fair? Well, we know it's not fair, but it's life. And I'll always tell her when she gets disappointed, this is life. This is a life lesson to show you that although you put everything into something, the people on the other end are not always going to be, reward you for it. So, hey, I'm sorry, but I needed to get this out, and I would like to have your opinion, what you think about it. But on an up note, did you know that the Kentucky Wildcats beat Oklahoma University last night at the last few seconds of the game by 1 point? And I was up by myself on the couch, and I was biting my hand and trying to keep from screaming because my husband and my daughter were in the bed. I went to bed like at 12:30. I was so jacked up I couldn't hardly settle down. So tonight they're playing again. If you want to watch the SEC tournament, it's in Nashville, Tennessee. But they play another late game tonight, but that's okay. I can handle it. Hey, I hope this doesn't get anybody down. I'm not trying to get anybody down. I'm just saying this is something I think a lot of people face. So give me your opinion, what you think, and please like and subscribe this channel. My numbers are just slowly going up, and this is maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, one more thing. Some people have been saying they can't find me under senioritis. Well, see, I didn't know what I was doing when I started this, and still don't. But when I used the word senioritis, I didn't look on YouTube to see if that name had even been used again. See, my mindset was I was thinking people over 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 that we could talk and be friends, and chat back and forth. I wasn't thinking of a senior in high school. That was a bad move. So then, after I started getting my little channel started, some people were looking and saying, I can't find you, I can't find you. And then Lois Bayard Rice, she found me. She's really invited people to look at my channel. And I think it's slowly starting, people can find it. But I've looked on the internet myself. Plus, I have texted this guy that is just an expert on all this YouTube stuff, and about changing my name. And he said, since it's just been early that I've started my channel, to not change it and just let it go and let's just see. So it seems like even the last few days, more people are finding it. So if you know of anybody that would enjoy it, hey, just let them know about me. And one other person had asked me yesterday about playing Amazing Grace on the piano. Now, if you've watched that video that I've got 7 or 8 songs, that there's even no talking, it's just songs. And I've got them listed down below, the names of each one of the songs. You will find Amazing Grace is on there. I think it's the last song. Check that and see. If you don't want to listen to all of it, maybe you can zip by it. But it's 8 different songs. So try that out and let me know if you enjoy that. Hey, who knows when I'll be back? I may be on another rant tomorrow, but got to watch those Kentucky Wildcats tonight and coach them on. Hey, have a great day, a great weekend, and be happy, and let's just discuss our problems and not act ugly about it, okay? See you soon. Bye-bye.